The Trump administration is currently in the process of selling out and betraying every single veteran in this country who has served in uniform. As you can see from this leaked internal memo, the Trump administration plans on cutting 80,000 employees from the Veterans Affairs. These 80,000 people are the people that provide health care to veterans who otherwise wouldn't have access to the care that they need. These 80,000 people are the people that make sure disability checks go out on time so that veterans can afford food, shelter, the things they need to live their life. These 80,000 people are the people that make sure the GI Bill is squared away so that veterans can go to school, get an education, and have a productive job. These 80,000 people are committed to making sure veterans get the care, support, and services not only that they need, but that they deserve. If you think it's hard now to schedule an appointment at your local VA clinic, if you're having to wait 6-7 months to see a doctor, if you're having to spend hours on hold trying to talk to someone at the VA, how much harder do you think all of this is going to be when they cut 80,000 people? Let's be clear. These cuts will have a drastic impact on every single veteran that relies on the VA. They could be potentially devastating. But I am here to tell you that these planned cuts are not the only thing we need to be extremely concerned about when it comes to the Trump administration. So to provide a little bit of background, some of you may know that the government and Doge are going through the government and just randomly eliminating jobs that they don't think are valuable anymore. And many of these jobs are filled by veterans. Veterans who have been showing up to work every day, who have been doing what they're supposed to do, and the government has just decided, you know what, your job isn't important anymore. So there was a reporter, and they asked this question to a Trump lawyer, essentially saying, hey, what about all these veterans, these disabled veterans that you all are firing? And I want you to pay very close attention to what this lawyer for the Trump administration, right? This isn't just some random person, right? This is someone who represents the views of the Trump administration. This lawyer says, perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment. Consider that. I want you to let that sink in. This person from the Trump administration saying that veterans who have served their country twice, once in uniform and then a second time as a federal employee, these people who have been showing up, doing what they're supposed to do on the job, they are not fit to have a job at this moment. Talking this way about our nation's heroes is an absolute disgrace, and it is a complete betrayal of the support for veterans that the Trump administration claims they have, right? It would have been one thing for this lawyer to say, look, we appreciate veterans. We appreciate their service, but the simple fact of the matter is the U.S. is broke, right? We have a huge national debt. We just can't afford these positions. We don't want to let veterans go, but we've got to make cuts somewhere, right? That would have been one thing. It would have been sad. It would have been unfortunate, but it still would have been showing appreciation for our veterans. They did not do that. They did not accept responsibility. They did not accept accountability. Instead of saying, look, we're making cuts to balance the budget or so we can have tax cuts or whatever. No, they turned it around and they blamed the veterans. Veterans are not fit to have a job at this moment. Again, this is an absolute insult. It is a disgrace to veterans. And I need to move on from this because the more I think about it, the more frustrated I'm going to become. And I want to think about what does this all mean for us, right? Because I know many veterans were huge Trump supporters in the election. And if you supported Trump, I'm not here to be angry at you. I'm not here to insult you, right? I think we all make the best decision we can based on the information that we have at the time, right? Again, I'm not here to criticize. That being said, we have to think about our future as veterans. Many of us who rely on the VA, right? Many of us who have become injured in serving our country to where we can't just go find another job, right? Especially one that pays a living wage. We have to think about that moving forward. And as we think about that, I want to emphasize the importance of evaluating politicians based on what they will do for veterans. Prior to the election, I made a video and I talked about how the VA had improved so much. I talked about the only reason we have all these programs and services is because there is politicians that are willing to support them and to fund them. And I told people, I said, when you go to vote, when you go to cast your ballot, think about what the politicians will do for veterans. And as we know, Trump won the election, and I know a lot of veterans were initially happy about that. Again, I'm not blaming you, right? I know there was a lot of hope that Trump would take care of veterans, that he would do a lot of good things, not just for veterans, but for the military. But we have to look at what politicians actually do and not what they say. So that's something to think about. Obviously, the insults that the Trump administration is doing towards disabled veterans who have been fired, that's already happened. We can't change that, right? It's an insult. It's a disgrace. There's no going back on that. These 80,000 cuts that they're planning at the VA, this is not final. This is a plan. So what should that tell us? Number one, it shows us that the intent of the Trump administration is there. Even if he gets voted down, even if he gets overruled on this, remember, he still wanted to do it. The intent was there to sell you out. But it was also just an intent. There is still time. We can still write to our congresspeople, our senators, right? We can still encourage our politicians to take care of the people who have taken care of the country. And when it comes time to vote next November, next November, November of 2026, right? Whenever you get a chance to vote, right? City election, local election, federal election, whatever the case may be, when you get a vote, look at what people have done for veterans, not what they have said. And again, this isn't an I told you so moment, but going back to the 2024 election, we knew before the election even happened, we knew that Kamala Harris had supported expanding veterans benefits. She was a proponent. She was an advocate of the PACT Act, right? She had a history of working for veterans, right? What had Trump done? What had he done for veterans? Well, there's a lot of speculation about Trump's lack of a military service record, right? I wasn't there. I can't accuse him of anything. But we have here this example where his lawyer said, yeah, Trump acknowledged that he made up a fake injury to avoid military service, right? Again, evaluate these politicians on what they do and not what they say. When it comes time for you to vote, simply wearing an American flag pin and saying, I love our veterans, is not enough. Has the politician voted for or against veterans in the past? We need to keep this in mind as we move forward. So I know I always close out my videos by saying, I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know that this is really an enjoyable video because some of the stuff we have talked about could cause very real hardships for many veterans. So even though it wasn't an enjoyable video, I hope it was nonetheless informative, and I hope it's given you something to consider as we move forward. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.